Thank you. Before I started in Amsterdam, I did projects for the Netherlands Railways, and actually I'm not very clever with digital stuff. And about 7 years, someone came to me and he talked about Wi-Fi, and I thought, like, stop boring me. But he wanted to make business with that. And I knew a lot of people at the Netherlands Railways, and so I started asking people, do you know what Wi-Fi is, and do you think you can make something out of it? And at one point, someone was interested, and not in the Wi-Fi itself, but with Wi-Fi tracking. And about 7 years ago, we were sitting in Utrecht at the central station and office of the Netherlands Railways. We had a Wi-Fi tracker on the table, and we all thought, let's do something with it. So we walked down in the hall and looked for a place to put it. And maybe, I don't know, how many people know about Utrecht Central Station and how it was 7 years ago. It was totally different compared to how it is now. But then you had the Smullers, which is a place where you can get snacks and French fries and stuff, the really good stuff and very unhealthy. And so we put the Wi-Fi tracker up there, and then we had we wanted to know something. We wanted to know how long people had to wait for their French fries. Now we think, oh God, that is a piece of cake. But then that was a big deal, at least for the people I was talking to and for myself. And then we measured that you had to wait how many minutes? 3.3 minutes before you got served. And then we showed those results to the board of the Netherlands Railways. And they were starting to dance on their tables, wow, yeah, this is really good to know, because then they start to understand that if you know this kind of things, you can optimize your retail. And this first sensor, it grew out to a smart station, which is implemented on all big stations in the Netherlands now. And I did that together with the Netherlands Railways. And actually, what we're doing now in Amsterdam is the follow-up, but don't tell the Netherlands Railways. Maybe you can start the...
I'm going to bother you for just 1 second.
Ah, it's not running.
Now it's running.
Oh. This is a small introduction about the crowd monitoring system in Amsterdam. And it's recorded in the red light district. Just take it easy, don't get nervous.
Het crowdmonitoring systeem Amsterdam, het CMSA, zorgt ervoor dat wij inzicht gaan krijgen in aantallen en dichtheden in de stad. Met name op de Kalverstraat en de Wallen. En dan gaat het over voetgangers. Dus waar is het in feite druk of waar dreigt het druk te gaan worden? En deze informatie kan je gebruiken voor de directe gebruikers zoals crowdmanagers en de politie om te anticiperen op drukte.
Vooral vanuit de politie gezien gaat het mij helpen om te voorkomen dat er een calamiteit ontstaat doordat er gewoon te veel mensen op een te klein oppervlak zijn. En als wij daar inzicht in krijgen van daar waar een probleem gaat ontstaan, kunnen wij maatregelen nemen die dat voorkomt. Maar daar is waar we mee bezig zijn, puur preventief in plaats van reactief. Zoals ik het zie is dat er op een scherm bij ons in het politiebureau een signaal komt waarbij er een bepaalde hoeveelheid mensen op een bepaalde plek staan. En niet op individuele basis, maar als massa. Daarin kunnen we zien van, oké, waar is het dan precies? Hoe kunnen we dat oplossen? Waar ligt nog de ruimte in de wijk waar we mensen heen kunnen geleiden, zodat er meer ruimte ontstaat en geen gewonden van.
Het gaat de uitdaging oplossen waar Amsterdam nu voor staat, voor de Kalverstraat en de Wallen, is op bepaalde momenten, piekmomenten, die drukte te hebben die niet zo lekker aanvoelt. Waarvan je eigenlijk zou willen dat je dat meer zou kunnen spreiden over het gebied, zodat het meer doorstaat. Het is geheel anoniem, het systeem. En het zorgt ervoor dat het niet terug te herleiden valt naar individuen. Maar het gaat ons niet om de individuen, het gaat ons om de massa.
So, like the police guy and the other person, those are people I work intensively with. And the great thing about this project is that we are building the whole chain, from data or from sensor to solutions that are used by the police or other like internal clients. The idea is, like in general, like what do you do when there's a problem? You think about a solution. But actually that's not right. When there's a problem, what you should do is trying to understand the problem before you start thinking about a solution. So it's very important to understand like what is causing crowdedness, what's causing a problem, and that's why we do analysis. And of course you can do this with modeling, but models are always like approaching reality, and sometimes they can be off. So I really believe, like, if you want to do a good, thorough analysis, you need to do more. You need to combine modeling with data. And data in traffic often is available, but for pedestrians it's not. It's kind of like a new modality. And when you really understand the problem, then you can take measures. And that together, the analysis, the monitoring, the measures, this is how we organize crowd management. And apart from measuring and analysis and modeling, you also try to understand behavioral aspects. Often with these kind of systems, you really look at the quantitative side, but it's also very important to understand like how crowdedness is experienced, not only by people who live in Amsterdam, because they are generally complaining about crowdedness. You also have like the visitors who are generally happy when it's crowded. But there's like different dynamics also when it's comfortable or when it gets unsafe. And when you understand it, how that works, you can also understand like how to work on the solutions. And I really like the slice of the, I don't know, it wasn't the slice of the pie, I think, but the slice of the pyramid. This is a different kind of slice. It's kind of like a same thinking process. You need to organize the whole chain rather than only focus on one piece of the chain. And when you have data, it's not information yet. But information is not knowledge yet. You know, when you look at the information, you need someone who knows like about the area, about crowds, to make knowledge out of it. This can translate into a measure, and that can translate into a pedestrian or a passenger or a people solution. And that also like part of the bigger picture all the way to smart city solutions. Another thing, like sometimes you talk to the police, and they're very primal in their wishes. They say it's too crowded, it's a hotspot, solve it. And then you tell them or try to explain to them, you know, the hotspot, it doesn't arise from itself. People have to walk to that place, and it's very important to understand it's like a connected process, and the more you understand about the chain, for example, how many people arrive from Schiphol and that go to the red light district or do other stuff, like when you know the peak at Schiphol, you also probably can predict the peak at Amsterdam Central, and when you know the peak at Amsterdam Central, you can predict the peak in the red light district. And it's not only about pedestrians, it's also about cars and where car parks, or like there's different dynamics. You have also events and stuff. So we really try to work towards like the integral insight, and then also like to an integral flow solution. That we also scope on the KPIs of the city. Well, you can define a lot of KPIs, but in this case we define them as safe, accessible and comfortable. And also the solutions or the needs are on different levels. Like the police, they want to know when it gets too busy so they can go there and do something about it. But strategically, the data is very valuable. And when you talk about business cases, about city planning, if you, for example, this is a real case, like if you know how many people are at a certain train station now, and you want to build a new train station for the future, and when the model says, like, I don't know, 1 million, and when you measure, you find out it's 2 million, then when you need to buy a new, when you need to plan a new station, you need to build it twice as big as you originally planned. And building new stations is not cheap. I mean, you're talking about needing like 500 million extra rather than like using 500 million budget, you need 1 billion budget. And that is a good business case because the analysis itself, it only costs like a couple of 100,000. Where you don't, like you should never forget that the result should be, and that's, I'm also very serious yoga practitioner. I think it's very important also like the balance in society between technique and people. And when you think out of the perspective how people get happy, then you will also find like the best technical solution. These are the drivers. So if you want to make business, you know, you should make a picture of this. Metro stations, they have issues. They have debate with the fire department. The fire department says, we think it's too busy in your station. So what should you do? When they say they think it's too busy, like, is that enough to invest like millions of euros to make it safer? So for the city, if you can measure and quantify how many people are exactly at the metro station, and you can show the fire department, you know, it's way below like what is regulated, then you can like avoid investing unnecessarily money. Also, like this is the one below, when you want to redevelop an area, in this case the arena, when you really understand how this area is used now, based on data and in combination with modeling, it can help in the process with organizing the same vision with the stakeholders, and it will lead to better plans. The idea is, and this is, I call it the popular picture, that we collect data. So often there is data. When there's no data, we use sensors. We organize the data. We add intelligence. And it needs to be usable for a user, whatever user interface. It can be a signal, it can be a graph. And we try to organize a chain together with partners. I'll skip this one and this one. I will tell you something about the sensors we're using. This is a 3D sensor. Maybe you can, yes, thank you. It measures the height of people, how they walk. And also here is a pretty simple business case. This is in front of a shop. And this is a waiting queue. And when too many people wait, other people will just like go to another shop. So this is very interesting information. Of course, the municipality is not like interested in those things. We want to know about crowdedness, but this technology is very usable when you want to measure accurately. We also use Wi-Fi, which is more like about origin destination. So when you put one Wi-Fi sensor in the central station, another one at the bus station, and another one at the ferries, you can see like how many people go from the train station to the bus station to the ferry, and that can be valuable information. It's not very accurate, and you also have to like think very carefully about privacy. About privacy, when you implement these kind of systems, you always have to fight the perception of Big Brother is watching you. That we call like the, well, I don't know the word in English, like the social perspective, how people, inhabitants perceive these kinds of systems. And then you also, sorry? Oh, okay, I'm hearing voices now. That's and then you have like legal and technical perspective. What is legally possible, and technically what's technical possible. And you have to address all these variables to get to the solution. And I like this article, you can look it up, because when the new colleague, how do you say that? Well, like the new college, City Council was elected, thank you very much. The first thing they said, like, we will ban all Wi-Fi tracking. And I was really, you know, like, oh, okay, this is the end of my project. But I had really good contacts with CPA, which is the Commission Persoonsgegevens Amsterdam. They like advise the municipality about privacy issues. And this article really said, like, you know, it's an illusion to like think that you can go through the city without being seen or without being tracked. But if you employ the system that Eelco is working at, like that is like, then you're safe. So that was good publicity. And in order to do that, create more commitment, we also organized a website. Maybe you can roll through it. And here is like completely explained what we're doing. And maybe you can pull down this and go to the maps. And we also have a map where all the sensors, like maybe you can zoom into the red light district, where all the sensors are placed. This is a little bit too much zoom. Yeah. Maybe up a little bit to the left to the station. Yeah, so like we also place sensors at the bus station, at the ferries. Okay, thank you. Well, I'm not sure. Maybe some of you guys really like this stuff. I can send it to you if you want. Okay, we'll tell a little bit more. This says, like, when you have a sensor, the MAC address doesn't leave the sensor. It's immediately encrypted at the sensor, and what is over sent to a server in Denmark. It's a system that's actually used at Schiphol as well. And this is like how we make sure the MAC address doesn't end up anywhere in our systems. And we also work with artificial intelligence. There's a big difference between machine learning and artificial intelligence. Machine learning, I always say, is like identifying the patterns on data. And when you talk about artificial intelligence, you really try to let the computer think. And I think this is like will take this will like be very important for the future, and also for like systems like this. It's not perfect yet, but it's very interesting stuff. It's also like how you make the information low accessible, approachable for users. And we also experimented with 3D simulations. It's not really a simulation, like 3D a model or digital twin of the city. And there's a lot of things going on there as well. I really like this one. It's from London. But then also you have to think about the business model. It's cheap, they're good. It's too easy. You know, you call them, they will do the job. But then when you call them again, you will pay the price. Interesting insights. Like, what do you think is the busiest day at the Carver Street? Is it before Christmas or after Christmas? Actually, it's after Christmas, between Christmas and New Year. And this is New Year's Eve. And I mean, it's obvious. It's like, you know, but when you show it, it's there. It's a fact. And it really helps to understand what is going on in these situations. And people that have to deal with these areas, they really think this is useful information. maybe you can like log on the website. Die rechtsboven aanklikken. Dat doet hij het niet. Anders die website, hij stond nog open toch? Van, nee, die van Blip. Kijk of er nog in staat, Blip. Shit. BlipTrack. Ja, die zit eruit. BlipTrack login. Dat is. Ja, die. Nee, wacht, dat is BK, sorry.
Er stond met flow voor, hè?
Okay, well, never mind. I have some graphs. Maybe can go back. You can log in the system and then you can get the data real time. And these are some impressions of the data we get. This is at the bus station. And what you see here is how it is now or last week. And this is historic data. And then you can see that last week it was less crowded than normal, which is interesting information. You can use it like to manage the bus station better. The red light district, you can recognize patterns where people come from and how they walk through the red light district. Did anyone like walk through the red light district? Yeah, and how did you experience it? Why? Yeah, and that's also interesting. When you work with the municipality, I mean, it is a theme park, but you're not allowed to say that, you know, they will fire you, yeah. I always say, that's also something I learned in yoga, you know, it's all relative. We like drama, we like to have drama. To solve the problems at the red light district is very easy, you know. You just raise the taxes on planes from the UK. You have part of the solution. Or, you know, you put gate lines in front of the red light district for the entrances. You let people pay, you know. But we don't want that, also for good reasons. But I also work for an engineering firm, you know, and then I think, you know, like... But understanding these patterns, it also identifies when it's very busy. This is helpful for the police, but also to generate measures. For example, putting hosts in place, which I really like as a measure. It's a friendly measure. Host, you know, they say, okay, it's a little bit busy here, maybe you should go and walk over there. And there's like a lot of other measures you can create when you have the data. But never forget, data is one part. You also need to understand the people. So you also need to interview the people and, you know, like this gentleman, ask them how you feel about the place. And then you find out it's very different also, crowdedness, how people perceive it. When they feel it's unsafe, then they feel like it's more busy as well. Like a measure could be you put in more light. So people will feel like more safe, and when they feel more safe, they feel like it's not so crowded. During the day, you have families who go there, you know, it's more easy going. In the night, it's more tension. People feel unsafe faster, and then also like they think it's more crowded. Yeah, it's very interesting. This I really like. We also put sensors during events, and this is the arena. And this is during toppers. Did any one of you go to toppers? And if you did, you know, you don't have to be ashamed. Don't worry. Yeah, these guys are going, you know, like, what the hell is toppers? Like, it's, I don't know really, but people dress up in pink. And yeah, like you rather get recognized at the red light district than at toppers. But there's like a lot of people who go there, and as you can see, like this is normal, and you see how much more busy it is during an event. it's crazy, you know. You see like these huge peaks. And when you want to redevelop this area and you want to build a lot of new houses, then you really need to understand like what is the impact when there's an event. You know, people who live in those houses, if they can't get out of their houses during toppers, or maybe if they're too embarrassed to leave their house during toppers, that's useful to know when you start to redevelop places like that. The same at Kingsday Station South, which is a very challenging station and area. But also here you see during Kingsday, there's huge peaks. And when you understand it and when you start like to talk about it with parties involved, like the Netherlands Railways and ProRail, it can help you to start a dialogue to solve those issues. Yeah, that's about it. There's a lot more I can tell. Yeah, this is kind of like the message I wanted to send out. So are there any questions? Not about toppers, please. You know, I'm not the specialist on that.
Thank you for the talk. I had a question. Can you also recognize like the type of crowds? Like if people are just partying, you know, coming back from some place, or maybe like there is a fight somewhere, or that would require other kind of sensors for this?
Well, actually, my strategy is to keep the project as boring as possible.
Ah, okay.
So we just measure like how many people, what is the density, how fast they walk.
Okay.
Also to stay away from discussions about like more personal characteristics.
Okay.
Because then you will get like more questions and difficult questions, and I don't like difficult questions.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but technically that is possible. But we don't use it in our project. But I expect like when it becomes more clear, you know, what is acceptable and what is not, then we will also implement it in our project.
Maybe a follow-up. Have you tried like looking also at, because the problem is also there's the human aspect.
Yes.
So why not eliminate that and do like, for example, animals? So like in the food industry, there is a lot of animals moving around. They can fight. And often when they're young, they kill each other. So there's like a lot of mortality. Yeah. So if you can like detect like these crowds fighting just with this simple sensor, you can actually do a huge cost reduction in these sectors. And I'm not sure if you were the party contacted for that or
yes, always. Yes, okay, we're open like to work with everyone. I don't have any money now, so but we can always have a talk, and maybe we'll have money next year because like, well, I'm not going to bore you with that. But it's very interesting, and like this will be a big thing for the city, and anything that can help to manage those issues, we're interested in. And we're also looking at sound, like when there's a fight, there will be noise, and that is also a trigger. Then you can look, what's going on. Yeah, but anything that helps is good. Yeah.
One final question.
Yeah, Eelco, thank you very much for highlighting the flows of crowd monitoring. But in how many instances has the result of your monitoring actually changed the behavior of next year events? And so, the toppers is still one that you're very fond of. So, have the toppers changed anything in recent years?
It's an ongoing process. Like we did measurements, not like now with municipality, but for ProRail at Central Station Amsterdam, just to prove the platforms were too small. Everybody knows they're too small, but like the government, they say, it's maybe too small. But we like proved it was too small, and then we had a case towards the government, like to change it, we need 500 million. And now, like ProRail got that money, and they will widen the platforms. So this is like you have the whole chain. Also at the red light district, because we put in sensors, it helps the police to manage, and it gives a case also towards the municipality. You know, it's been in the news quite frequently so far, and like the advice for that, it was also based on what we did there with measuring, and also the chain is completed with employing or deploying hosts in that area. For toppers, I don't know if there's a solution for that, but you know, call me if you know. But for events, yeah, it will happen. We're in the process now, and yeah, next year I will give you an answer. Yes.
Thank you, Eelco.
Thank you.